Jason, we got a chance to talk about your background and now the successful businesses you run and how it relates to the book Turning Tables, right?
Right.
Which is a big part of what you talk about with your team and how you operate.
For sure. Yeah. Thanks for including me in that. It's taking responsibility, definitely a big part of what we do here. You got to hold people accountable and, but communicate to them and get the expectations out in the open and take responsibility.
And we go way back. Just take a moment and tell everybody about your family of restaurants.
So, I had the great opportunity when I was, a much younger guy to do my own thing. I'd been working in restaurants and basically since right out of high school, kind of just did it on the side while I was in college and then really fell in love with the business. And got my opportunity to do it on my own. So we created Martin's Downtown, destination spot for lunch and dinner and live music and all the good stuff that we're known for. So we did that for 15 years before we opened our second location, which was Sidecar, which is right next door.
That's where we are now.
Yeah. So the proximity of the two being next to each other, and a developer came in and did this whole building. It used to be a printing company. So opportunity came knocking, and we answered the call. And I'd always wanted to do something a little different and a little more upscale than Martin's. I guess I kind of had a little chip on my shoulder that, I wanted to prove to, I wanted to challenge. I wanted to prove to everybody, hey, well, I know more than just burgers and rock and roll,
I can do something else.
Yeah.
So and you thought, well, once you did the second one, I guess the third one bubbled up a lot quicker than 15 years. Right?
Yeah, it only took us 5 more years to open our third restaurant. I mean, it was an opportunity thing. The place was right down the street. I knew I could keep an eye on it. It was very turnkey. It was just the right deal. And another opportunity, and I couldn't not do it.
So I've been around downtown enough to know that one of the things that you've done is found a way to manage 3 places from one location. And when your team's looking for you, you might be at one of the other places. So has it helped you to kind of disappear every once in a while, having 3 different kitchens to go hide in?
Yeah, it's funny. I joke that, as far as everybody else knows, I'm working somewhere, whether I am or not, but I generally I am. But even when I'm not necessarily working, as far as at least 2/3 of the restaurant or of my employees think that I'm working at the other one.
That's
so
right.
It's kind of, it's kind of a little easier to hide that way. Not that that's my intention, but it keeps me on the move, and I get my steps in just running laps around this block.
Yeah.
But it's been a fun challenge. But keeping them all in the same area has been, by design.
Any truth to the rumor you're rebranding this part of town as the Martin's section of Roanoke?
We'll see what happens organically. I don't know if I'll do it, but maybe. I don't know. Maybe it may need something. Yeah.
So I've heard a lot of people say a lot of things about you through the years. And one of the things that I've heard repeatedly is that Jason knows how to be the best at what it is that he's doing. And each of your restaurants, and I know you do some other things in the community as well, the catering, and I think you run some food for another venue, but each place has its own vibe, but each is really superior at what it does. That's not an accident, right?
No, I have a pretty clear vision of what I want each of these concepts to be, and I try not to let the lines get too blurred. Like I like boxes, and I like knowing that this is what this is and it belongs here. And that's, so when I come up with good ideas, I have 3 different folders of notes. And, if I see something, oh, man, that's a great idea. That's good for this spot. And generally speaking, some things I could envision at different locations, but most of the time I know exactly where it needs to go when I come across. Yeah. So, and I think when you've got 3 restaurants on the same block, you've got to do that because you don't want to cannibalize yourself. There's going to be some overlap. But I think you got to be careful and try to create 3 different experiences or 3 different menus, or draw from as many different pots as you can, and not step on your own toes.
Do people come up to you besides me and say, "Hey, I did the Triple Crown," or what? You have a different name for it.
I call it the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
When you do all 3 in a day, and it is generally a big topic on the weekends. I see people all the time. I'll go over to one restaurant and see somebody sitting, having a beer at Jaybird, and then I come over and they're having dinner at Martin's, and then the next thing you know, they're over at Sidecar having a nightcap, and so it's fun.
So years ago, you started in high school, like you said, working in the food service business, and you were in the kitchen some, and then I think you were behind the bar at a couple places. What kinds of things did you learn back then that have helped you? Again, you're still in the restaurant industry, but I guess more specifically have helped you as an owner of a business.
Yeah, I didn't realize at the time, but something that went really well for me was working in the corporate restaurant environment at a young age, because it taught me a lot of the structure that I still use today, but I really enjoy the flexibility and the vibe of the independent restaurant side, obviously. But some of the lessons I learned before I had any bad habits, at chain restaurant A or B, whatever, are definitely stuff we still use today. So there's just those little attention to details and just having the way things are done and the cadence of the business.
I guess people do better in work situations where they know what to expect, right? And that's part of what helps with that path.
Yeah, 100% structure. And I feel like, and we've done this over the years, I've had this conversation many times, that we take employees that somebody might say that they've worked at other restaurants, like, oh, I don't know about them. And, I'm like, well, they worked at that restaurant. That restaurant doesn't have any structure, or like, of course, you give them enough flexibility to not be successful. But I'm confident we can get people that are kind of fringy like that and get them in our system, and we can give them an opportunity to excel because we provide that structure and they make the expectations very clear about, how we do things and why we do them that way and whatever. And
So
consistency.
There's a lot of what you do is help people understand why you're doing those things. I mean, big systems really come from little things. It's really little things that are
Sure.
put together into a bigger system. Talk about, how you explain those things to your team and about the value of doing the little things right.
Yeah, I mean, it's always the details that really set you apart. For the most part, most of these restaurants, we're all doing kind of the same stuff. We're serving kind of the same food, but it's like how you do it. And so there's little details, whether it's how you cut your lemons or whether you use unwrapped straws or wrapped straw, all that little stuff that no one really thinks about it's all really important. And I guess, I'm consistent in my message to my team that these little details are important to me, and I'm not afraid to tell people when they are not meeting the standard. And I think people that, I don't think they fear me, but I think they respect the fact that I'm consistent in my message. And so people know, hey, this is how we cut lemons here. It's not like you did it down the street, because it's better to do it this way, and people realize, oh, they have standards.
So that's paying attention again to the little things.
Yeah.
But what I think I hear you saying, and I want to kind of pick at that a little bit. What I think I hear you saying is you might actually cut lemons 3 different ways at your 3 different restaurants. I'm not saying you do, but are there examples of things that you intentionally do differently at all 3 places because it fits what you're trying to accomplish at the restaurant?
Maybe not the lemons so much, but yeah.
I meant the theoretical lemons.
Yeah, I mean, it's more so they all 3. The restaurant model is the restaurant model, and you can kind of put every restaurant in that box. But there are subtle differences. Obviously, Sidecar is a lot more scratch kitchen, and on the service is a lot more amped up, and so it's a little different approach. Whereas Jaybird's just pizza and subs and salads and stuff. So it's more less touches, but it's still the same quality when you look at those standards. But yeah, the service is probably the biggest thing that varies between the 3, but we still have the same, try to have that same attention to detail.
When you think about and look at talent acquisition, you meet a person that you think would be a good employee, just like with the different ideas. Do you start to have an idea of where they would fit at which restaurant, or have you seen people that have been successful at different places in your group?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I always kind of look for the next person up, and I've been very lucky lately that I have had not very much turnover. It's really the management pieces that I look for the most. Those people who I really depend on to carry the torch and keep, be an extension of me. And so whenever one of those positions opens up, it's, you can't just plug in anybody. And I kind of have an idea, like, well, if this person moves on, or if this happens, or if we promote this person, who we're going to pull up next and next and next. So that's probably the stuff that keeps me awake at night, is trying to find my next people.
Thinking about what's coming next and how to navigate that. If you think about it, it's probably, I know we're both football fans, but it's probably a lot like the leaders with the football team. When the coaches get hired away, they have to have a plan to have the next people and how that fits together.
Yeah, I feel like a head coach all the time, whether I'm just giving people pep talks or actually drawing the X's and O's in the playbook and saying, this is how we're going to do this, so it's a lot. And managing the people, this business is really easy. The people is the toughest piece of it, because even your best people have bad days sometimes. So you got to be able to get through those things.
How do you help people when you've seen they've had a bad day, or frankly, even when you yourself have had a bad day? How do you turn that around and get it back on track? Because one of the things that's talked a lot about in the book is each table's a fresh start. And in your world, each day is a fresh day. And what happened yesterday is different in the restaurant business, has no real impact on what happens today, right?
Yeah, I don't know that I have a solid method for how I pull people up when they need it, but I guess just being there for them and talking them through stuff. We have the challenges. The restaurant's only as good as it is today. And no one cares about the meal they had 2 weeks ago that was amazing if they show up and they have a bad meal. So you really just every day. And I think the biggest thing that I preach to my team is culture and toxicity, attitudes. We don't tolerate that stuff. And it's like if someone's habitually bringing everybody down or doesn't have the right outlook on things, we address it. We don't let that stuff fester because it's really bad. It can bring the whole morale and vibe down real quick if you don't. So we stay on top of it, but that's just me being present too. That's me being here and keeping an eye on that stuff because you just kind of that's the gut feel part of my business that I think that I do that not everybody can.
I think it's well documented. You do it exceptionally well. I guess what I'm also wondering is 3 restaurants and a catering business, one Jason. That's a head coach. Nobody's a head coach of multiple teams.
Right.
So if I draw the analogy back to what you're doing here, you have to, I guess, lean on your seconds in charge at every place, right?
For sure. I have people that I go to, and they know that they're responsible for this, that, and the other at each spot. I've got back of house people that are focused. I've got front of house people that are focused. But each restaurant, each station, whether it's front of house, back of house, front of house, back of house, front of house, back of house, they know they're in charge of that. When I come to them, we hit the bullet points because it's been a long time ago where I could touch every plate that went through this place. Right. And I used to. I was the absolute functional GM for Martin's for the first 12 years probably, if not 15. And so, but now as we grow, I realize that, I can't touch every plate. You got to, put some faith in people. And I've been lucky and have great people that have supported me.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the things we have in common. Obviously, I'm in the ad world, you're in the food world, but gone are the days where we can have our imprint on everything that happens. And it's an awesome feeling when something comes out of the kitchen or you get a compliment about a drink or a meal and you had nothing to do with it. I mean, that's got to be gratifying for you.
Yeah, for sure. Not every idea has to be my idea. And I do spawn a lot of that stuff that I think that's what I enjoy about the business is coming up with the concepts and ideas, but I collaborate with my team and say, hey, sometimes a little less me is okay. If I can kind of just get the ball rolling in the right direction and then let somebody see where they can take my idea, that's just as gratifying as if it was just my idea from the get-go and, and that's all from start to finish. So, yeah.
I just wanted to take a second and ask you a little different question related to customers. Obviously, they're coming to your place or all of your places. Not everybody's in a good mood when they get here. Sure. Most people are. I mean, if you think about most really good memories come in a restaurant or sure. a venue or a place. Yeah. Like we work together at the Spot on Kirk. They come at a place, but not everybody's coming in feeling great.
Right.
They might have stress, whatever.
Yeah.
How do you handle difficult customers?
Well, hangry is a real thing, and people do come in, and they're a little.
Were you talking to my wife again?
Some people come in a little grouchy, until you give them that first glass of wine or that, that appetizer in front of them. Then they're, you can see it. It's like a switch. So that's a real thing, and we can identify that. But the people that come in for lunch are coming in because they got to eat, and we're convenient or whatever. They're probably walked here. People that are coming to Sidecar for their anniversary, they have a little bit different, air about them when they walk through the door. So. But they're all important, and every experience you have, however different it can be, is something that we try to make as good as it can be for you.
So do you all talk about mirroring people in some ways, like if they're in a busy rush lunch situation?
Oh, sure.
Obviously very different than a casual meal at a place like this.
Yeah, I think the very first step, I don't know if you asked all my servers that work for me right now and bartenders whether they realize they do it or not, but you gauge that guest on your first interaction with them when you ask them, hey, how you doing? My name is so and so. I'm going to be taking care of you. How they respond in that moment will tell you everything you need to know about the rest of the way. So we definitely profile and read our guests and try to gauge what they want. And it's not to be judgy, but it's just so that we can kind of identify what they need or what they expect or what they want.
Or help fulfill what they need, even if they can articulate it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, try to be ahead of them. That's the trick. So
is that one of the things that you learned back in high school and college when you were doing this stuff? Did you start to kind of get that inkling, or did that come later through experience, or kind of both? Yeah,
I think it came on through experience, but it came on pretty quick. You kind of realize them. But those were things that were taught to us back in, I worked at the Applebee's, and that was some of the things that they kind of, they had a really good playbook, and I didn't know any different. So, everything they told me, I was like, oh yeah, this is genius,
Yeah.
But yeah, reading your guests, that's like kind of rule number one. And I don't know, it's been so many years ago that I did that stuff, so I don't know who still teaches that stuff. I still know it like it's in the back of my mind all the time. It's subliminal, I don't know that I'm doing it, but of course I'm doing it.
Like usual, you've given me so much good information, given the people that are watching a lot of good information. It's led me to a couple other questions. One I have for you is, do you have ongoing support for your employees and your team? I know this is a fast-paced environment, but is there any sort of ongoing training or additional training that you do for the team, or is it kind of like go as they go?
Well, I think we're constantly training and retraining. My security team is a great example. You know, as situations change or your clientele changes, and we have to say, hey, you know, this situation that we've never dealt with before came up, and it keeps coming up all of a sudden. So let's adapt what we're doing, how we're doing it. So we would definitely have department meetings as needed.
Huddle up.
Yeah, just like, hey guys, this is something we just realized that we're not doing so well. Or we'll change some things on the menu and realize, hey, change the way we're doing this, which changed the way we're doing that, which is not really working out the way we want it to. So yeah, we're constantly adapting on the fly and training and retraining and training and retraining. And that's, me and my assistant managers, we kind of joke about how it's kind of frustrating when you're telling grown people, mature adult people, something that you see is very simple and common sense, but you have to constantly remind them until it becomes a habit practice. But that's what we do.
Yeah, and that happens in business just like in food service. So a lot of CEOs think once I share that information, and I wrestle with that too, like, they're tired of hearing it. They don't want to hear that. But you do have to repeatedly share where your heart is on things, because it takes a while for people to absorb it, just like the marketing things that we talk about. Yeah. So finding a way to do that and not get tired, I would think, would be one of the many things that you're perpetually looking at.
Yeah, I mean, even some of my hard-headed people, even if they're not really learning anything here, they're going to get sick of hearing me say it enough until they'll finally just change, just because they don't want to hear it anymore. But yeah, I don't know. Or maybe you're actually making people better too. I mean, then that works great. But yeah.
So Jason, think back to those earliest. You mentioned Applebee's. So were you a server there or a bartender?
I started as a host.
As a host.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
And then I was serving, 6 months after that, and then I was a certified trainer, yada yada yada. And then this was before I was 21, because all I really wanted to do was bartend, And so
the day you turned 21,
I was done waiting tables at Applebee's. I found a bar to get work out, and then the rest is history. But it provided a good base for me.
If you had to go back and coach that host or the server, maybe even the bartender at the age of 21 in November of whatever year that was, which I could probably do the math, but I can't do it that fast. What advice would you give yourself now, these decades later, man?
Man, I don't know. Just kind of slow down and enjoy it, I guess. I was just trying to climb, and we did good, or I had fun doing it, but I don't know, just kind of slow down and enjoy a little bit. But I think a lot of it was, like I said, a lot of the lessons I learned back then are great, and I don't know if I changed much about it, to be honest with you.
Can you believe you've been here not here in this restaurant, but here in this building for 20 years?
It's crazy. Yeah, I can't. It's exceeded all my expectations. I didn't really know what we were going to do in 2005. I was like, well, I'm going to have a fun place to hang out. We'll just see what happens. It was never about making a living, really, and now, this is what I'm doing to make a living. So, yeah.
Well, Jason, I really appreciate you taking time to talk with me today and to cover all the stuff that we talked about in Turning Tables. And through the years, obviously, I've gotten to know you and your restaurants. I really respect you as a business person. And I love the lessons that you learned in your early 20s and your late teens apply even now. So again, thanks for making time to talk with us today.
Sure thing, Bruce. Thank you for all your support from all my restaurants over the years.